It's the English and English podcast from englishandenglish.net. That's Eric.
That's Brett.
And we're going to get this thing started.
I still want to say .com every time almost.
I know.
We got to find
robbed.
those. What is it, like some teaching English to little Chinese kids
something
or something?
like that.
They probably have like...
I don't know why you need English and English for
for an English.
site
It's just
about English.
What's the other
language.
English?
Right.
We have two Englishes. They only have the one.
They have the one, the language.
Unless it's a guy named English teaching English.
But then it would be English on English. Or English
English with English.
English about English.
Maybe that's
There's
not
two
taken.
English languages.
Maybe we could do. We don't really want EnglishOnEnglish.com though.
Right, yeah, exactly. No, that's probably available.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's the one we don't need.
Right, that one wouldn't be good.
If I was talking about myself in like in a monologue, then I could be English on English.
But when there's two of us, it just has.
That's my solo.
Doesn't go anywhere good.
I'll get that for my solo career.
Your solo webcam show.
Right. English on
English. Like
some English on English acts.
Right. It's just you jerking off.
Sexy.
That's like that book that our mutual friend was talking about. This weird sci-fi book.
I couldn't even tell you the title though. So
right, but the guy goes back in time and like has sex with himself. Or
right,
it's all about like this guy in the office, like weird perversions.
Right, he was talking about how like
Emily veils it with a sci-fi book.
Half of sci-fi is somebody's excuse for weird sexual
Sex
stuff to happen. Right, yeah. And I'm not going to necessarily argue that.
Yeah, like,
I'm a sci-fi fan, but it seems like you run across some
has
weirdos.
Weird sexual stuff that they would like to write down in a weird book.
Right, yeah. Most of it though is not finding time-altered versions of yourself to satisfy their buttholes or whatever he was going on.
Yeah, because it was like gay sex with himself.
Right, in giant orgies apparently.
Like multiple versions.
Multiple
of himself?
versions, like they picked an island back where there were no humans on it, and just
it's all met with himself.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you what book it is, but I'm like, what books are you reading?
Yeah, what are you reading, dude? I think you got this out of like the sci-fi version of Xmart, not like Amazon.
Yeah, if you browse Xmart for books, it's like, we have a sci-fi department.
It's called Robot Dick.
Right, yeah. Robocock.
Yeah, Robocock.
We can build him better, faster, stronger.
Dead or alive.
Require more.
Dead or alive, you're coming for me.
Right, yeah, you're coming with me. It still works.
With me. Yeah. But not they're dead.
No, but that's like at the moment. It's too powerful. At the moment of...
Because it's like the ab bell. It's like...
Right, yeah.
It's just your muscles.
Everything, and they just go... It blows their heart up.
Terrible.
Well, now that we've made a podcast all our parents can listen to...
Exactly. Well, that ship has sailed, my friend.
Yeah.
The last few episodes, or any of ours.
This
one we just started earlier in the episode.
We just let you know right away.
Normally we wait till people get bored and drop off before we start with the crazy stuff.
Right.
It's to punish those who are not our stalwart fans. Mm-hmm. Reward the people who are loyal enough to listen past the first few minutes. Initial stumbling around trying to remember what we were trying to talk about.
Right. Yeah, well, one of the things I marked down, I kind of don't remember why.
Sometimes I'll do that too. Like, great idea, write down like one word or something that at the time makes a lot of sense to me.
I wrote it down a while ago because, around a week ago, maybe a little longer, was Earth Day.
Yeah.
And that always is a ripe source of throwing my hands up. So I just wrote down Earth Day, because it's just, you go on the internet, Facebook.
So now all you remember is Earth Day stupid.
Or
probably something more specific
than that. There was something more specific. There was one person who linked on Facebook some comic that it showed like a drawing of like a personified Mother Earth and like a person who was like a human, and God would be like, I love you, Earth, and it's like, well, maybe then you'll stop fucking up my environment. Like, why do people turn I thought we stopped worshiping the Earth spirit. Wasn't that? Didn't we get rid of spiritualism? Business? We're all secular humanists and enlightened scientists now, yet we still have a personified Earth in our mind. We celebrate Earth Day. We're screwing the Earth. The Earth does not know you exist, and it does not care, because it cannot.
This leads perfectly into my topic, which was my disturbingly increasing levels of nihilism. And because what I thought about is, I was reading something about how the sun's eventually going to run out of hydrogen, and then once it starts concealing helium, instead it's going to grow to 7,000 times its size and consume the Earth. It'll just consume the Earth in whenever this happens, billion years or whatever. So I was thinking, and it's specifically related to Earth Day and recycling.
Right.
I was like, if we knew, say we were a billion years in the future, we've done the calculations because we have super robots now, and we realize that this is going to happen in 100 years or maybe even 50 years. Something like recycling, and this is not going to matter, right?
Yeah.
So why does it matter just because it's a billion years? Like, it's still
it's still
eventually...
a finite point
like, what's that
won't
point?
matter.
And where, I mean, it doesn't matter eventually.
Well, it does matter in that the same reason cleaning up your house matters. Your house will eventually decay and be no more, but if you want to live in a clean house versus a dirty one, right?
Right, but I mean, that's
nicer
assuming
to
that the house is going to get dirty while we're still living in it, which is not really the case.
No, I mean, it does get dirty while we're... Like, let's say, right now, if you don't clean your house every so often...
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about the Earth. These
life.
things are not going to be problems for, like, hundreds of years, like if I recycle my aluminum cans or not.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
to an extent.
Like, eventually humans will run out of these resources, but it's not going to happen during my lifetime.
Right, so the whole point then is just to make sure...
Do I care about these generations in between me and the inevitable heat death of the planet?
I mean, there's a certain amount...
This is why I mentioned nihilism, because no, I don't care about it.
Right. Well, that's nihilism comes from knowing there's going to be an end and also being a misanthrope. Right.
Yeah, but that's also increasing dramatically.
Right, yeah.
When people can't even figure out how to use four-way stop signs and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Or they're constantly putting in new roundabouts everywhere in town, and
people are like, what does this mean?
They always like lurch forward.
I'll be the first to admit I hate roundabouts. I think they're Euro trash, stupid inventions.
They've been proven to be more effective, supposedly.
Well, it's interesting because the amount of accidents goes up because nobody knows how to use them, but the lethality goes way down because you can't just like T-bone somebody.
Right.
Like you can't just go, da-da-da, I've got a red light or no stop sign and drive straight through. It's just a bunch of like fender benders while people lurching forward, grandmas,
wondering if it's their turn.
People not knowing that someone else's turn.
That's probably what
like
they mean by the studies about it being better.
Because it makes it a lot less
lethal. It's supposedly it's one of those things though.
But the number of accidents goes up.
The thing the study doesn't reveal, of course, is it relies on the people knowing what they're doing versus. The problem we have here is that people don't.
Well, the point is you don't. Even if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, if people do know what they're doing, they are proven to be more cars go through an intersection in an hour than
a red light.
Right. Simply because it's a continual drip versus a bursts of speed. And but
I've also seen they don't work well for areas where one road has like 4 or 5 times the traffic because then it's like a stream, and if you're on the other
back
one,
up on the side,
you can't ever find a gap to get in.
Yeah, like the ones going north south have 3 times the traffic
because they're bumper to bumper, so
road.
they're just taking all the openings.
And you have no way to get in
to work your way in as often anyway.
On the roundabout there,
yeah. So the number of accidents because
you need to invent the flying car. And make sure that certain people that are proved competent are the only ones allowed to use it. Everybody else got to drive around.
Invent mass genocide. Wait, they already invented that.
Right.
We should use that. Let's get rid of half the people. I thought you were going
to say mass transport.
No. Mass murder.
Right. They have that. It's had the general problems.
If I was the only one who had a car, these would not be problems.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how I propose to fix everything. It's inevitable anyway. Am I? Yeah. Are you really? Yeah.
Sun's gonna blow up, huh?
Mm-hmm, right, sun's blowing up.
Why do you
doesn't matter? Yeah, doesn't
matter. Before we get too dire and grim,
too dark.
Well, this isn't gonna help. But never
mind. While we get darker,
right? Yeah. The other things that piss me off on the internet. Apparently, some recent thing you saw this. I know, like the soldiers being made to wear heels.
It wasn't soldiers; it was an ROTC.
Recruits.
Yeah, and I don't know why they did, because I sure as hell wouldn't have done that when I was in ROTC. I would have told them to cram it up their ass.
Like, I guess I'm out of the ROTC, guys.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not. There's no way you can make them wear. Not only that,
right,
but it makes them out of uniform. And as much shit as I got for being out of uniform for stupid shit, like having pens.
You could have come in with
pen
regulation and been like, "Sir, this is not uniform. I cannot be required to participate."
Well, not only not be required to. I mean, like, obviously,
technically, you could get them in trouble for.
Forcing out by who? They're not going to get in trouble.
Right,
but it would be a valid point.
It would be a valid complaint to a higher up.
Right. Like, why don't we just wear pink breast cancer hats while
For those of you who don't know, it was some group
in one
school. I don't know what part of the school worked with the RTC, if it was the RTC staff member on their own.
Well, it was just an army thing because they're all big on the sexual harassment.
Basically, what I don't know is if the awareness campaign dictated that they make them wear heels or not, or if it was this person's choice to do that. But
it wasn't just a choice. There's a bunch of them. Like, if you see the picture. No, I mean, it's a bunch of students.
No, what I'm saying, I don't know if the commanding officer made the choice to do the heels or if the Army did. Basically, the instructor, the officer at a RTC location at a school that I can't remember which school it was, made these recruits wear high heels as some show of like solidarity against and like parade around campus as some show of solidarity against sexual harassment or rape or something like that.
Of course, you could always go Black Knight on it and be like, why does high heels specifically represent women?
Well, they even made a line in there like we know, like and no, this doesn't just represent women, but It was like, we know it only represents this, but we're going to say a sentence that says it doesn't, even though we haven't refuted that. Like, the whole point of wearing high heels is to try to make something of, like, say that, also, it's just insulting on the face of it, that wearing shoes makes you identify with the victim of a sexual crime? Like,
what if they were wearing flip-flop? Or they probably were anyway.
Yeah, what if the women
don't wear high heels anymore in America?
Or what if, like, wearing high heels is, it was so pompous, basically, because it's like implying that high heels is correlated with being a sexual victim.
Well, no, I mean, because they just think that it's a woman issue, even though they're not willing to come out and admit and say guys don't get sexually assaulted because they do.
Right.
It's all about women, so they just make high heels, which are directly correlated.
It's tasteless on multiple counts, is my point.
Yeah.
Like, because,
the least of which is certainly not the fact that they made them go out of
as
uniform.
a man does not make you suddenly more sympathetic to those who have been sexually harassed or
it was just one of those stupid awareness things.
Yeah.
So people would be like, what's that? Why are they wearing high heels?
Right. But that's my point. My point is that everything is these awareness and these little tokens of, look, I care, but it's not actually doing something about or doing something for the people to whom something actually has happened.
Save Our Girls thing or something. That was hilarious when Michelle Obama had hold up the sign.
Put up the hashtag. It's like, you're the wife of the president.
Like, you're the wife of the goddamn leader of the free world, so to speak. Who the fuck are you showing this to? Who are you pleading to?
That's the move of college students who want the powerful to notice, not the move of the powerful to give a token showing that they care.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So I would have gone after if that was my. I mean, first of all, I just wouldn't have done it. I'd be like, "What are you gonna do? Kick me out over this? Please."
Right. Yeah.
And second of all, if it's out of uniform, be like, no thanks, I'll stay in uniform. I would just be like, I think I'll stay in uniform.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Or just, you could act, I mean, it's more fun, to act like you're serious about it and be like, oh, okay, and then be like, actually, I was looking through the regs, and I really don't think that the high heels meet the requirement for these shoes. Like, I don't think I want to do that. I'll stick with the...
Yeah, just play like the glasses type. Like,
actually,
Section 1, subsection 32 says...
The uniform regulation guidelines.
And by the way, your
unless you're a
tie's not
general.
straight.
Apparently generals are allowed to prescribe their own uniforms, technically.
To themselves or to their
like they
staff
can just prescribe their own uniforms for themselves.
Oh, well, you gotta have some perks at the time.
Right. Oh, there's plenty of perks, believe me.
Yeah, I know, but that's the joke.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Well.
They didn't do that to me.
I had another thought, apropos of nothing we've talked about before. But I was actually watching that show, Community, that recently got picked up by Yahoo.
Oh, Yahoo, okay. I knew it went online.
And apparently there's a couple different shows on, like, Yahoo now trying to get their own. The problem with some of them, though, is that they just don't organize their, like, you're trying to find it, like, their episodes are out of order in their queue. And
so weird, yeah.
Like, just do, like, Netflix and a couple of them do it very well, and like Hulu and stuff, where it's like listed across the bottom in order. It's but in other ones
they want you to like accidentally watch a commercial for like a crossover SUV while you're trying to find your episode.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll buy a Volkswagen Touareg now.
And maybe that's what it is. So like, like while you're searching through it, clicking out of order, and it keeps a new commercial airs.
Like,
there you go.
No, honey, we can't watch the next episode yet. We have to go to the car dealership,
right,
and buy some Old Navy.
But anyway,
pants.
I was watching that. And it was making me think about like comedy movies in general, and versus like things like podcasts and radio shows. And I just realized something like the writing and stuff for comedies.
Yeah,
it's one of those weird things that you don't notice until you think about it for a second. But in real life, when people are having fun or doing funny things, it's them sitting around laughing with each other.
Right.
Nobody's laughing in the comedies.
Well, you're laughing at them.
You're laughing at them. It's always something bad. It's not like them having a fun time and you're there with them to laugh.
Right.
Like a radio show where people are joking back and forth and then you listen in and laugh along with these people. It's like in comedies, it's never... Even if it's supposed to be a funny movie,
I think that's why they would add like
about
laugh tracks and stuff like that to make it feel more like authentic.
Like that. Like you're there with the group laughing around.
Silent.
Right, yeah.
And with movies, I mean, you're in the theater or whatever, stand up, you're with other people.
Yeah, so I'm wondering exactly how that paradigm came about, other than, I guess, just, you don't have that restriction in a movie, because you can be the silent God observer.
Well, there's also a lot of things that are in the movies that are funny to observers, but they wouldn't really work if the characters are laughing. Like when something unfortunate is happening.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be funny if you were there. If you were those people, if you were part of that group having that adventure, none of that would be funny.
But it's sort of the same way that you laugh about stories later. You're like, man, that shit was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's probably
so you're outside it. So you're not
because you're outside it, and it's like laughing about it later.
Of like breaking down in the middle of nowhere and joking about being raped or whatever. Like obviously you'd be super pissed off.
Right, yeah.
Your day's ruined.
Or two people arguing, because they are like, a group of adventurers arguing because they lost the last meal.
Or they're fighting over a ticket to a movie or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
It's just like I think it's the same thing as the way you can laugh about it later.
Right, yeah.
Because you're not experiencing the shitty part of it.
Totally get it. It's just humor. It was a humorous thing to notice. I was like, yeah, okay. So in certain types of media, like I said, on TV, the laugh track is like a halfway compromise with that. It's like
to let you know it's
the audience is given the impression that they as a group are laughing together.
There's all a bunch of laughing happening.
But in like real life or things closer to real life like radio where you're just listening in on people being funny together, you just hear people, or podcasts or something, people just talk to each other and laugh with each other. But like a TV show or a movie, nothing actually that they consider funny is happening, but it's still a fun time for us.
Right. I don't know why, but that made me think of this thing of comedies. I was thinking about the Mystery Team movie. Because the guy's in Community too.
Right, yeah.
Which is
he's not
funny.
Anymore, but yeah.
Oh, he's not?
No, he
because now he's doing his rapping and stuff.
Something, yeah, went on to other things.
Donald Glover. But that was just the one part of that movie that always cracks me up is when they go to the lumberyard.
Yeah,
and he's dressed like this guy with a mustache.
Yeah.
And they're like, who's gonna pay for this? He's like, me, Leroy Jenkins or something. And he's like, why don't you? They're trying to figure out the guy's address.
Yeah.
So he's like, why don't you look up in your computer there the address that you have for me? He's like, I'm moving to Guam and I want to make sure that it's
he gave him the name of the guy they were investigating,
looking
so they could look
up. But then they look it up and he's like, yeah, send the bill there. And he's like, I thought you were moving to Guam. He's like, sir, please stay out of my face.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So funny.
Doing this like involved thing, telling him all this stuff. And
then when he asks about it, sir,
please stay out of my face.
That just cracked me up. Moving to Guam. And he said you're moving to Guam.
Right.
Please stay out of my face. Yeah, that movie was pretty good.
Right, yeah. Pretty good one. Shows what you can do with a lesser budget if you just have some good writers.
Yeah, good writing and
humorous,
decent actors and stuff.
Right.
I bet they made that for a few $100,000, maybe.
Yeah, pretty much just the cost of the crew. Almost nothing in the way of sets or.
Yeah, they just on location stuff, right? Houses and things like that.
One or two sets, maybe. But yeah.
Right. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
What else we got?
Oh, we talked this is linking it way back to some of our early podcasts.
Ooh, so only our true fans
Only our true fans will know. All one of you.
Yous out there.
Yous guys.
Thanks for listening.
No, talk about Facebook freebooting, right? And the last podcast I talked about that guy, the engineer guy.
Did he win his lawsuit? Or
no, that's a different guy. There was Smarter Every Day.
That's when we
still has his lawsuit.
Okay.
He was the guy who I was watching
and really brought the
issue up and made a very good video explaining why it's a problem and how it's being done and stuff like that.
Right.
But then I mentioned last episode this guy called the engineer guy. It's like a professor for an Illinois school, and I was talking about how YouTube is getting all the more. I mean, you're going to be able to watch as high quality stuff as like the Discovery Channel on YouTube one of these days. Because he's making these pretty short videos, but you can tell this guy's super knowledgeable, and it's pretty good production value, and he's doing like very in-depth explanations of like the reasons things are designed and engineered the way they are and stuff like that. Like, pretty interesting channel.
Cool.
If you like that kind of stuff. And on Facebook, probably because I mentioned it or typed it, on Facebook will then, and all these things now link.
So you see his video pop up,
and it's hosted by somebody else, and and I even went down the comments, it's like thousands of people had seen this and commented, because it was some like groups page,
right?
And somebody said watch it on the guy's original channel so he makes money, and at least I was like, well, thank God.
But that doesn't really do much.
Yeah, it doesn't do much.
Sharing it around.
I went and I clicked on the report a video button to see what kind of options there were,
right?
And the options are like only like it's they're not very helpful, because it's like it's offensive, I don't want to see it, or other, and then it's like other or something, and then it's like you keep going down through these choices like, oh, it makes fun of, it's racist, it's sexist, whatever. And then at the bottom, it infringes on my personal intellectual copyright.
No, I'm just
like,
saying
I'm just recording it for someone else's. Like,
I think you just have to email them and say, hey, these people are
you would have
your video.
But like, I was just doing it to see what the methods were for reporting an incident. They don't have one built in for, hey, I noticed, I know where this originally comes from, you know.
Right.
That's the problem that he pointed out in the Facebook freebooting video. The other guy, Smarter Everyday channel, was that Facebook itself isn't really all that fast. I mean, they'll do something, they'll take it down once the intellectual copyright holder says something.
Right, but that's it.
The other person still made all that money, and Facebook themselves made all the money off the views that came from those video shares and the ads that ran with it.
They profited from it as well. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see.
So technically, what they did was illegal. They facilitated the distribution of copyrighted material, but they don't get punished for it.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that's a deep rabbit hole because you don't want the internet to get locked down.
Right, now, exactly how far you want that to go is debatable because Facebook doesn't police it. What will happen if you prosecute that too much is Facebook will simply not allow anything to be posted.
I'm okay with saying that, like, Facebook isn't the one doing it. Like, their machine is being used for it, but I don't think it's any different than a VCR company being used to make bootleg.
Right, exactly. But they should be doing some more to
DVD.
Help people stop it. You know what I mean? Like, because right now...
I don't know. I don't think that the companies are responsible. It's the same as like the LimeWire and torrent companies. Like, they're just a tool. How it's being used is
well,
not
what I mean is, like, I'm not saying they're responsible, but I'm saying, like, you know, just in, like, good faith, if you call and say, hey, that's my video, they should be able to provide you with, like, okay, here's all the statistics about when it showed on our system so that you could prosecute the people involved, kind of thing. I mean that'd be
nice, but...
Yeah. It's not
I don't think they have some sort of duty to do,
so to speak, but, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah, it's just a weird figuring out the autocorrect. I mean the
autocorrect.
I was looking at a thing here. It's just figuring out the technology. It's changing
it's a new
so
world
quickly.
And it's changing all kinds of things. Yep.
So. Okay, here I found an article. We had like a 30-second pause there. Maybe I'll try to edit that out.
Yeah.
But, anyways, here we got a.
Now, man, we're all raw here, warts and all. We don't hide the fact.
It says curb stoning. How not to fall for this one common Craigslist scam. Curb stoning. We're about to find out what it is. I probably know what it is and just never heard that term.
This,
There's a common scam it's always car buyers need to be aware of, largely because it's the best solution is to not fall for it.
Well, naturally, duh.
I mean, it means there's not a lot of recourse probably once.
Okay. Yeah, but that's the case for most scams. Why I said duh.
This car you're looking for, pics looks good. You call and speak to the owner. He tells you about the car and says the right things. He's had it a while. It's treated him well, and he's selling for an innocuous reason. You ask to see the car, and he gives you a residential address. He meets you at the curb where the car is parked. Oh, so they're like selling someone else's car.
Oh,
they don't actually own it. That's my guess. You walk around the car and even take it for a test drive. Everything seems legit.
How would you take it for a test drive if they don't own the car, though?
Maybe they'll write down the wrong number of the VIN number and be like, "Oh, you didn't actually buy this car."
Oh, yeah.
You haggle on the price, strike a deal. You pull out the cash, and the seller, 1, pulls out a title in someone else's name. 2, pulls out a purchase agreement with the name of a seller as seller, or says the transaction needs to take place at a local dealer where a friend of his has agreed to help with the paperwork for this transaction. These kinds of shady deals are referred to as curbstone deals. They're usually being done by people who are dealers pretending not to be dealers, or by people who are not dealers but ought to be because they sell too many cars. What? How is that a scam?
Well, it's
deceptive.
False representation. I don't know if it's a scam. You're still getting car,
but like the should be dealers because they sell too many cars. Ooh.
I guess so. What it is that they're hiding fees by pretending to be.
So what?
I mean, it's still dumb. Like, I probably wouldn't do business with this guy if he comes around and then it's like, oh, let's go over to the dealer.
Well,
by the way, it's $10, $20, $30, $300 more than I initially said.
Yeah,
like, wait a minute.
But if I found out this guy is like running a used car lot out of his driveway because he just buys and sells cars, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm just saying, like, it sounds like what they're trying to do.
So the government didn't get their $300 for his license.
Yeah, I don't care about that. But I'm saying, it sounds like what they're trying to do is they're trying to rely on people sometimes want to buy from another person.
We'll see.
And avoid like the fees of a dealer, and so they pretend to be another person.
But
and then
a scam, I'm thinking that the buyer is the one getting scammed somehow.
Yeah.
So when it's just the government getting, not their licensing fee, I don't really see that as being a scam.
Well, it might be that what they're doing
reading.
to the buyer is
that's what I'm trying to
fees.
find out. It says if you file in Michigan, if you sell 5 or more cars in a year, you're required to get a dealer's license. Similar laws in other states, but most people don't bother to get licensed.
You didn't pay the guild, man.
They don't want to pay the small business crushing.
You don't have the mark of the beast, and you cannot buy or sell in the market.
Oh, here, now they get glib with it. It says they don't want to pay the small business crushing $75 fee. Oh, it's hilarious. It's not ever just one fee.
Oh, yeah. That's how it always, they make it look. We've done some small business stuff before. We know, like, it always come back for more. There's always another piece.
And the amount of it's sort of irrelevant anyway. Why should you have to pay a fee to
right, yeah. Why do you need to pay someone to have the right to buy and sell goods?
It says, as a result, non-dealers sell cars all day long from the curbside, the parking lot.
So it's not really a scam. Like I said, the only person they're really scamming is hiding their activities from the authorities.
Yeah.
It's not. It's more of a black market than a scam type situation, even though not really because it's not illegal goods.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, here's a strange.
Yeah,
they still haven't showed why this is bad for the buyer.
And it's not. They're just using that word scam because it makes it sound bad to the buyer.
Yeah.
They're trying to encourage the buyer not to buy from these people because these people are not playing the game right.
Right. So strangely enough, curbstoning in Michigan is not illegal in and of itself when done by a licensed dealer. The law says that a dealer must conduct a large share of its business at its location, but it can do, obviously can do some somewhere else.
I mean, it's weird. I don't know what the incentive for the dealer is.
Well, they just mentioned like they don't want to be like they think it's maybe it'll sell more likely if it doesn't look like it's coming from a shady used car dealership. It's like, hey, I'm just selling my car. And not like, hey, come by to Greasy Bob's car lot or whatever.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But I think, obviously, you'd have to be a pretty penny-ante place to worry about that for, like, drive somewhere for one car. Like, if you've got a real operation going, you're just going to come down to my place, come down and try, you're not going to worry about parking the car in someone's front of his house. Yeah. So I don't know why they're worried about that.
I mean, it's an interesting thing to learn about. Keep your eye out for, just because then you know who you're dealing with. You always want to know who you're dealing with.
I know it shatters your worldview to believe that a total stranger might try to mislead you. What are they misleading you on? That they're just the owner instead of a dealer? That doesn't really make a difference. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I just got the idea that anyone is being untruthful on any aspect of it, I would back away, just because then you don't know what else they're being
That was my point. Like, I understand how people would be wary simply because deception of any kind is just like red flag.
Right.
You know?
But why, in and of itself, that it makes it bad just because the dealer's...
If he's not trying to alter the price, if you get the car you see and pay for...
defect or something. Yeah, you're seeing it, you're driving it. You're not really
being scammed.
That the scam would be like they didn't really own the car.
Right, they're not doing a scam. What they're doing is under-the-table business.
Right, yeah, it's under the table.
You know, they're either trying to get out of the taxes...
It'd be like a plumber coming and like doing the work for you and getting paid cash instead of going through his company or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And they're still doing the work, you know...
Right.
So that's weird. I figured it would be like they had the car, the title was for like another Ford Escort, but it was like a beater, and it just had this, so they let you drive on.
I thought it was going to be like a photocopy of a title. That's why it said seller.
Or I had the wrong VIN number, no one was going to go and check the VIN number.
Right, and then you drive off with a stolen car, or they get to claim against it. Like, oh, my car's been stolen.
Right, and like, no, I had this thing. Like, that's not mine.
I have the real title.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So I figured it'd be something like that. So this is just them bitching about people.
And they'd have a witness for their whereabouts at the time. You know, like their friend would say,
"We
never met with this guy,
this dude. Yeah, like he scammed us." I figured it'd be something like that, but it's way less. It's way lamer.
Right. It's somebody in the Chamber of Commerce complaining.
Car buying. The website is called carbuying.something.com. So it's obviously like, buy through us, so you're not getting curb stomped or whatever they want to call it.
Curb stoning.
Curb stoned.
What does that even mean? How did that come about? Huh.
Yeah, so it's probably just them trying to use you.
Yeah. Well, I saw that, there was another news story about a recent dinosaur find in
it's supposed to be some awkwardly long grass-eating beaked dinosaur, but what's weird about this article is it says it's the first one of its kind found, and like the next sentence is, where is it?
Yeah, this is the part I'm talking about.
It was the most abundant animal to be found 140 million in what is now the whatever region of Patagonia. It's like, wait, so it's the first one ever, and now
we found one fossil, and we know from this one fossil this was the most prolific breeding animal in the region. How do you know this? Because we found one fossil.
Yeah, I mean, they don't explain. Maybe this article is just doing it's the Guardian. I mean, take that. The Guardian's trash.
Right, yeah. Who knows? Maybe there were thousands of other fossils and they just don't... They found one cache of fossils, maybe, and they're like... But still, even so, let's say you find a cache of 100 fossils. That doesn't mean that they were the most widespread. You may have just found the
here
most...
it says the first fossilized bones were discovered in 2004.
Okay.
So I don't know why they're just announcing it now.
Well, maybe they found the first complete fossil.
Maybe.
Is what it is. But...
So if turning to the site, they found bones from at least a dozen of the animals, including 4 nearly complete.
Okay, so this is just the end of their study, and they're making the announcement of their findings.
I guess so, yeah.
10 years later, after all of their research. But still, you found 12 fossils, and you know it's the most abundant animal of its era because you found in one region because you found 12 fossils. Like... For one, I know you're wrong.
Unless this is just poorly worded and they just mean it's the most abundant animal to be found remains of from that period.
Yeah, who knows?
You know what I mean? And they just said it's the most abundant animal to be found 140 million years ago in what is now the region of. Right, so I mean, unless it's like they found more of those in that area.
Right, maybe it is just poor wording, but the point is most often though you get those kind of statements where they find a little sample of some knowledge
and
they'll come up with some theory, and it's not just dinosaurs and other things, but just science and everything.
And they'll be like, I think, and then they'll just write that as like,
they'll say like,
oh,
this means X because we have two correlating factors. It obviously
or scientists will be like, I think this was probably the most like prolific one, and it's just him thinking out loud. Now it's like written down as a fact as some quote unquote science.
Right, it was that guy's personal pet hypothesis. Because saying that helps him get a grant. If you say, I think this was a meaningless animal and no one should know anything more about it, that doesn't give you any money to continue your research. Right. Whereas if you say, I think this was probably one of the most important finds in all of archaeological history, then they go, well, money, 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 money.
Yeah.
So obviously some bold claims and hyperbole come into play because your job depends on it. Like, I can't remember who you were joking with one of our friends, but it was funny. Mm-hmm. You wrote that one thing that said, like, science is, 1% inspiration, 90% perspiration, and 90% grants. You know?
No, I said it was 90% confidence, 8% like research, and 80% grants. Like, I added like 153%. Right, yeah. And 80% grant money.
But the truth is, like, it's all grant money.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Grant money.
Yep.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. I mean, I get it in the one sense because, like, a lot of research doesn't produce its own immediate returns. So you have to have people willing to put some money in to do some research. But just like any system, it's getting overbearing and corrupt, and plenty of research going on out there that's just, like I said, people making these weird claims like this that just because it helps them get the money, not because they actually have any proof of the science involved. Like, it's not enough just to say we found these bones and what we've learned about these bones is that this animal looked like this and probably had this kind of behavior and diet. It also is, it was the most prolific in its era, and here this one is named Sue, like because there's
yeah,
I don't know, like they make up stories about it, and I get it. That's just the human tendencies to make up stories. But it gets passed along. It's not like here's our theory and here's a story that we think is probably how it worked. It's the great priests of the science have spoken. This is how it was.
Exactly. And do not question it.
You shall not question science.
Science.
Yeah. That's something I don't know. Did we talk about this last time? I feel like I'm repeating myself. But the fact that there is no capital S science.
What do you mean capital S science?
Then we didn't talk about this at the time. But this is a big pet peeve of mine. There is no capital S science, meaning people say I believe in science. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Are you talking about the current body of human knowledge? Are you talking about the process using the scientific method? Yeah, like
are you talking about a profession of being a scientist?
based
that's why
off
Vox
the
has
Greek
come up
word.
with like all the different words, like
Right.
scientity,
Exactly.
scientistry, and all this
Right,
stuff.
because
to
like there
describe
is no
each
capital
aspect.
S science is the simple way I put it. Because like people say like science says is like science is not a person.
Right.
Science is not a deity.
Right.
Science is not even a collection of council of persons.
Right. It's a study
not-
of the natural world.
Science
in its most
is,
basic.
Science is a method for studying the world.
Experimental process.
The word
of
science
studying
just
the
means
nat-
knowledge in its original Greek, or
Right.
what the word it was
Right,
based
so,
off.
I mean,
if
you
I
could
remember correctly.
say you're referring to the current body of human knowledge, but you have
We
to
know that's
specify that.
you know
and
we know
not
that's
really-
ever changing. You know,
Right. So I mean, that's
why
not
they
really
don't say
referring
that. They
to
just say
much.
science tells us. It's like science doesn't have a voice.
they're acting like it's a thing,
Science has
yeah.
never said anything.
Yeah, that always pisses me off. That shows that they don't really.
Scientists,
That they're not really. Those
users
are
of the
people
scientific
who are probably
method.
most dogmatic. Anytime they use the word science,
Exactly,
like
that's what it is. It always comes back to the dogma, which is exactly against what scientific
Right.
system was developed for, which was to be a rigorous
really
system for avoiding the dogmatic or
I mean,
the
otherwise you might as well
you know,
just say I believe in
unexplored.
science, or I believe in knowledge, or something like
Yeah.
that. That makes more sense. Or I
Right.
love
Well, that's what's
knowledge.
funny.
But
To me.
it's
People
still
say like I
kind of
don't believe in the
obtuse.
superstitious stuff. I believe in science. Like,
What does that
what
mean?
do you mean? You believe in the weighing and measuring of
course you
quantifiable
do. Yeah,
data
exactly.
in order to make a hypothesis or to measure
Right.
the results
Or you
of
believe
something?
that people have knowledge of the physical
Right.
world, that some of it's right, some
See,
of it's
people
not
use
correct.
the word science to try to refer to, like you said, the collection of human knowledge, but it doesn't even mean
But even then, that doesn't really mean much.
Even then, it's not
sort of a
specific. Like, they say
platitude.
like science tells us that this is that. It's like, and then it's like, well, what scientific studies
Yeah, it's
say
not like
that
science
this is
tells
that?
that. Some study has led people to believe.
And then, are you looking into how accurate that study is at all? No, you just say because it's a scientific study,
Right.
quote unquote. You know,
Yeah, so let me tell you, people who say shit like that, I just don't even listen to what they have to say.
right,
What's funny is that they're usually above average intelligence. They just have no argumentative reasoning.
right, yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's the same thing that human beings always do. Is what I'm saying. It's an appeal to an authority.
Right.
But the problem is science is not a real authority because science is a nebulous non-thing. It is simply a method. Now, academia is technically what they're referring to. Like what they say is, I believe in academia. What they're actually appealing
Right, it's
to
academia.
is the authority
What's appealing to
of
authority.
the people who make a living teaching human knowledge.
Right.
And they say, I believe that the people who currently teach human knowledge
Are right
are
about
so
everything.
knowledgeable that everything they say is right.
Right.
And if
They're not even
you
saying, like,
explain
this is
it,
interesting. They're like, anything that could be classified by me under the guise of science is like to be worshipped.
right? Well, it's not even that they acknowledge that it's worship or that they intend
I know
it to
what
be
you're saying.
worship,
I'm
but they just say like,
translating.
I believe in science or science tells us, and they don't understand that if they really broke it down, they would realize how stupid that sounds. Because what they're saying is, a collection of people in an academy say these things, and I believe it to be 100% true because these men can't have fucked up.
Right,
And
ever.
then ever. No aspect of their teachings can be wrong. And then if they really explained what to themselves what they were saying when they said science,
Right.
they realize how stupid they sound.
Exactly.
So they don't say
Yeah, that's
that.
anytime
because
someone
the-
says something like science, I'm just like, you're an
Right,
idiot.
capital S science. It's like it's the same. If you remove the trappings, it's the exact same argument method. If you appeal to Allah or something like Allah tells us,
Right.
The Scripture tells us,
Right.
Science tells us. It's like, well, pointless assertion,
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't
I'm
mean
not saying like science is one of the
even
greatest.
mean that whatever
the
it is
scientific
wrong.
method. Right? No,
The issue that they're
they could
specifically
be right about the
talking
specific
about.
thing they're talking about. I
Right.
don't care.
But that's
the
not the
point. Is
point,
that
yeah.
that you get this dangerous misconception
of
of what
dogma. Yeah,
knowledge
it's like
is and how science works and
Or how the scientific method
right, or
works.
or the fact that like one of them is inherently opposed to. Like, science inherently opposed to faith and belief, yet you're placing as much faith and belief
Right.
as a religionist of a different kind in science, capital S, because
Yeah,
you don't
that's
actually
insane.
question it. You don't actually do any scientific studies of your own. You just say,
Well, it's funny
the
'cause
priests
that's
have
what's
spoken.
funny. It's always easy to dismantle people's ridiculousness when you just ask them to define things,
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they either they can't
Exactly.
or they come up with some totally opposite from the dictionary definition. Regardless of what definition they initially choose, they use it incorrectly from there on out, or
Right.
they try to. Because if you said science, you'd be like, "Well, it's a study of the." Okay, so you believe that there is a study of
Right,
things,
yeah.
or
you
you believe that
the
it's
study
100
is always right.
Yeah, or like always produces absolute truth, or what are you
Right.
actually saying here? And they're
Right.
like, come
Right,
on,
yeah,
don't be an
exactly.
idiot.
Exactly.
So
I mean, that's just one of it. The point I will grant on their behalf is that that's part of human beings in general. It's difficult. We say a lot when we say single words, like love or anything else. It's really, we need about 1,000
that's
words.
why when you're
for
actually
that.
making any sort of argument as opposed to just talking to your friends. You have to define the words.
Exactly.
That's why they have things like Black's Law Dictionary, so everyone,
Exactly. But I'm saying, like, that's part of the difficulty. Most people aren't making they're just talking to each other. They're not there to have a debate in a formal sense. And so I understand. But at the same time, people just aren't willing to
even
admit
when they
themselves.
are, they just rely on rhetoric and not on actual
but all that aside is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I understand that part of the difficulty is we as human beings tend to use single words which
I don't care
large
if someone
concepts.
says that. The problem is then that infects when they do make arguments.
But yes,
and
that's my
policy
point. That's
and
my
stuff
point.
like
Is that the problem is we don't acknowledge that. We don't acknowledge that when I say love, I'm talking about 1,000 different things.
Depending on who's saying
depending
it,
on the context I'm saying it, depending on what I mean, what aspect of it that I'm talking about at this time versus the other person's concept of what is the highest form of love. Like I may be talking about physical attraction, they may be thinking to themselves about.
Science has said that butt sex is the highest form of love.
Oh yeah, is it?
This is science, right?
So ladies, science is spoken. Science.
No, it has to be gay butt sex.
Oh, it has to be gay butt.
You're right.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Science.
I have not appeased the science god.
Right.
The great
Science himself.
Science himself.
That's what I'm going to refer to it from now on. Science himself has said that.
That's the exact way to prove my point.
Because then they're like, what?
Capital S, like
well,
science.
who are you talking? Who's science?
Who's science? Yeah,
it's everyone.
I'm sorry.
All of us.
Science herself.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry.
Make it
Science
better.
herself has spoken. Right. Science itself.
That's either way. It proves like you were talking like it's an entity or something.
Right. That's my whole point. It's like you speak to it as if science is an
out
authority.
Like, I believe in science. Give us the truth, science.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, science! You have spoken so wisely.
When you're talking about this, it might as well say engineering. I believe in engineering.
It's like, well, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it exists.
It's not an entity to whose authority we can appeal.
Right.
It is just a method,
process or a method.
or a body of knowledge that human beings have shared over their many learnings about what works in terms of metallurgy and stuff.
Right.
Like. Ugh. Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much all I've got for today.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably about it. No, I think that's about it.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today.
Sums it up.
Sums up the universe at this point. We'll talk to you guys later. Check out englishandenglish.com.
.net.
.net. Don't go to .com.
Don't go to .com.
I can't say
They'll
.net.
teach you to do English with like a British accent or something.
We need to look into this. It can't be that expensive. It's probably like $5,000.
It's somebody has a business going, so I don't think they're going to part with it super easy.
All right. englishandenglish.net.
.net. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes and SoundCloud. But you can find all those links on our englishandenglish.net website.
See you later.
Adios.